securing so important because part of what gets lost in the pandemic is the fact that security should not be compromised. I got a phone call from a client this week who said, you know, with all of what's going on and people already being on edge, we're just not going to do the visitor management requirement for them to wear a visitor badge on a colored breakaway lanyard because people are already feeling too restricted. And I said, this is not the time to compromise on security. The first time somebody slips in, or we find somebody who's not authorized, or somebody who's not authorized properly acts out, we're going to really regret that we have compromised. And I've got a little story to tell with this. This happened during the pandemic. I was driving by a school last semester, and it was nighttime. They had adequate lighting. I could see lighting above the entries. But what I saw as I drove by was that the gym was filled with students. And in fact, whatever sport they were playing in that gym, I could tell that they were wearing masks. But there was a chair that was propping open that exterior door. And I was driving along with a friend, and I said, it's just such a shame to see when schools know that there ought to be good access control, a door propped open like that with nobody there to monitor. And my friend said, oh no, the school has to prop open the exterior doors so they can have adequate ventilation. And I said, okay, time out. Let's just think through this. The amount of improvement they're getting in ventilation is certainly outweighed by the amount of security they're sacrificing by enabling anybody to come from a dark area right into a building filled with students when nobody is there to monitor the door. And we have to stay rational in our thinking. If I only have $1 to spend and I only have an hour to plan, does it sound like your budget and your schedule? I'm going to focus on access control and communications first. And so let's tackle visitor management, and which is, of course, part of access control. And I want to say some of the things that we've learned during the pandemic are really going to pay off. I'm sure all of us have been in a store or a location where we've had to stand on a dot, or where there's been a one-way down that aisle indicator for us. In schools, we want to try to keep some of those things in play as well. We don't want there to be a huge congregating of people in a vestibule. We can bring people in a certain area and have them egress another area. I think that kind of wayfinding will pay off for us, not just for pedestrian traffic, but for vehicle traffic as well. From a visitor management standpoint, you see sort of a newer piece of hardware. It's not brand new, but newer piece of hardware. In the old days, definitely pre-pandemic, I would come in and I would hand my ID to an administrative assistant, and she would put it through a horizontal reader. The new hardware that you're looking at in this photo is affectionately called the toaster. It's a vertical reader. I don't need to hand my ID to the administrative assistant at all. I can put it in myself. This reader draws it down vertically, and then it pops it back up for me. It is in some ways a no contact or touchless kind of solution. If somebody is coming into my building and I'm an administrative assistant and they look more like Jesse James than somebody who's wearing a proper mask, if I feel any suspicions at all as the person approaches the desk, I may not feel comfortable picking up a two-way radio or a telephone and having that conversation unfold in front of them. It would be really nice to click on an emergency button, which is going to notify designated individuals that I have an issue where I would like some assistance up at the main desk. These are the kinds of things that came about, whether it's for contact tracing purposes or whether we're using questions about whether or not people have felt feverish or tested positive. All of this can now be done through our visitor management software. It's time to make sure we're availing ourselves of these features.